My name's Rick McGonigal. I'm actually the property manager at Grafton Job Corps.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I've been doing this for a couple of years, so Eric's asked me to help out with the training. So what I'm gonna go through a presentation that I set up first, show you kind of the procedure for doing SL stuff. And then I think I have 2 POs I can do here as a demo. So the system that we use for receiving product is a Microsoft Dynamic SL is the name of the system. And this is used to receive product in the computer so that it gets released to the finance department so that they can pay for it. Okay. So I'm going to go through. There's about 16 pages on this presentation, but we should go through it pretty quick. Okay. So as the property officer or the property clerk, you're responsible for ensuring the deliveries are received and verified in a timely manner. I'm not sure if you're aware of it or not, but as a property department, once an item is delivered to you, you have 24 hours to get it checked in and get it entered into SL. That's an item that the auditors and inspectors will be looking at when they come in and look through your area. If you're over 24 hours on something, what you want to do is make sure you take notes if there's something wrong with an order or something and it's going to be delayed being received. Make sure you make some notes on the PO so when the auditors come in you can explain to them, well, this didn't get received on time because of this. Okay? Okay. Document everything. Okay? If an order comes in and it's not correct, or they sent the wrong item or the wrong size item or something, anything like that, it's not up to you to contact the vendor and get it fixed. What you need to do is contact the purchasing department and let the purchasing department deal with the vendor to get everything fixed and changed. And just remember that everything that comes through the door, if you do not enter it in a SL, finance cannot pay for it. They can't do anything until you're done with it. So when we receive stuff, a lot of times we'll get a packing slip in the package. You want to attach that to the PO. You want to keep your eyes open for anything that says invoice. If you receive something on an invoice, we can receive it on the invoice, but what you need to do is make a copy of the invoice, and you'll keep the copy and you'll send the original to finance because they will need it. Sometimes when they send the invoice in the package, it means that they're not going to be sending it to finance. So we make sure that we get any copies of the invoice that we get over to finance. So this is something that I started doing at Grafton. This is not required by the SOPs or the PRH or anything else. This is just something I did to try to help cover my own butt. And it makes it easier if you have to go look stuff up. So what I did is I just took a little book and I keep a log of every batch that we do and every PO that we enter into SL, whether we receive the whole thing or we just receive a couple of lines or a couple of items. Every time we enter something in SL, we log it. We date it and log it. I would recommend everybody do this. Not required, but it has saved us on numerous occasions. So before you connect, so when you log in, this is what you're going to see on your screen is the Cisco AnyConnect. You got to connect to the VPN first, and then you're going to use the next one will be your remote desktop. And you'll use a remote desktop to log into the SL server. Okay. So you're probably going to find that when you log into SL server, you're going to get this error message that comes up. And that's just the certificates for either your computer or for the SL server are not up to date. They never have been as far as I know. So when this pops up, you're just going to hit yes on it every time and then move on. You can check the little box there, but that really doesn't seem to make any difference. It'll come up every time you do it. And you're probably going to find that you'll get an error message trying to log in. Typically, it takes about 6 or 8 tries for me to actually log into the SL server. Very rarely does it ever let me get in on the first try. So this is what your SL server looks like when you log in. So when you get into the SL server, there's a little menu down on the left-hand side. Most of what we do is going to be right in the orders menu. So you'll just click on that little highlighted section there, and that'll bring up this menu. And there's really only 2 areas that we concern ourselves with too much on this menu. And the first one is the receipt invoice entry. That's where you're going to enter all your POs and stuff. If you have a PO that you need to look up for whatever reason, or if you have a problem with a PO, the next highlighted section below, PO Receipts Inquiry, that's where you're going to go in and look up a PO to see what the status is on it. It may have already, if you're trying to enter it as a receive, it may have already been received, or it may have been canceled or something. So that's where you'll look that up. Okay, so once you get into the receipt invoice entry window, there's basically 3 sections to this window that you need to pay attention to. The top section is for the batch. So we'll come back to that in a couple of minutes. The bulk section below that. All right. So the second section down says document. The highlighted sections are the ones that you want to pay attention to. Where it says PO number, that's where you're going to enter the PO number that you're entering. And the control quantity control number, that's going to have to match with what you're entering. And the cost control, that's also going to have to match. And I'm going to do a demo for you in a few minutes, so you'll be able to see exactly what that means. And when you bring up a PO, down on the bottom where the grid is, that's where each line item is going to come up. So on the batch information, so you won't need a batch number until after you've entered your first PO. Once you've entered your first PO, then you'll get the batch number. Once you've entered all the POs into the system, then you go to the handling. And at this point, you can make a choice of either holding the batch for later, or release later, or release now, or no action at all. I would recommend not doing the hold or release later. Always release your batches, because it's real easy to forget that you have a batch open.
Okay, with the batch.
A batch would be when you go in and enter like multiple POs to be received, they all go into one batch. Okay, and you'll see that in a couple of minutes, because I'm going to go in and do a couple of demos for you. Okay, so the batch is like a group of POs that you're receiving in one batch. Okay. You can do as many batches as you want, and as far as I know, you can do as many POs as you want in each batch. You can do 1 PO, or you can do 100. I wouldn't recommend doing quite that many in one batch, because then you can get a little mixed up, and if you have an error, it's harder to find it. So you might want to limit your batches to 10 or 20 POs each. okay? But you can also do a single PO in a batch if that's all you have, okay? But I would strongly recommend never hold a batch. Once you enter your POs and you're done, put in the rest of your information and release the batch, because finance can't do anything until you release that batch. Okay? Any questions so far?
Yes
Okay.
and no.
Okay. You got a question? Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so this section here, this kind of shows you as you're putting in a PO. So the PO number, you can see I put the PO number in, and you can see on okay, what I'm showing you here is, okay, this is how you look up a PO. So if you click on the PO number block and then hit the F3 key, that'll bring up this menu you see below that has all the POs in it. Okay. So if you need to go back and fix a PO in your SL batch, you can find the PO for each batch in this menu. So that's one way to look it up. And I'll try to show you that when I do the demo. So once you enter a PO, you can make changes. So you go in and you can delete a line number or a line item out of there, and you can click anywhere on that line item, and you go up to the top left-hand corner, and you'll see the little X there that I got highlighted. You hit that X, and that'll delete that line. It seems like you might be deleting something out of a PO, but you're not deleting it out of the PO. What you're doing is deleting it out of the receipt that you're working on at the moment. Okay, if you bring that same PO up in another batch later, that line item that you've deleted out of the first one will be in the next one. Okay. You can also change the quantities, where I got the quantity highlighted over there.
Mm-hmm.
So say line item 8 came in, but you didn't get 10, you only got 5. So you just click on that quantity 10, you change the quantity to 5 by just hitting the number 5, and that'll recalculate the total cost. And it'll do all that for you, okay? Where'd my mouse go? There's my mouse, okay. So down on the bottom left-hand corner, you got that little page thing. Now, if everybody does their POs right, which almost never happens, but if they put in a description on each line item, you can click on that little page thing, and that'll come up with that little window, and it'll give you a description of what you're looking at. If they don't do that, the only other way to check and see what a line item is to scroll all the way over to the right. And if you have to do that multiple times on a PO, that can take time. So it's nice if you have the description. So when you guys put in your own POs, keep that in mind. You know, put in a description. It only takes a minute when you're putting in the EPR, and it makes entering it in SL so much easier. Okay. Okay, so now we get to the closing part. So as you enter each PO, once you're done with that PO, you're going to go up to the top left-hand corner again, and you see where that flag is? You're going to click on that flag. If you're entering a PO, what you're going to do is click on the document button and then hit OK. And that's going to document that PO into that batch, but it's going to keep you on the same batch. Okay, once you've completed entering all the POs in and you want to close the batch, once you've entered all the information for your batch in, then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to click on that flag, but when it comes up this time, you're going to click on the batch button and then hit OK, and that'll close out the batch. Closing out the batch usually takes a minute or two for it to process, but once it's done, then your batch is entered and released, and then finance can go ahead and pay for it. Okay. And then there's just one final slide here, goes into how to look up a PO, and that's that other menu item that I showed you in the beginning. So if you have an error, and a common error that we see is line item not found, or please re-enter. Usually that means that the PO has already been received. And if you have multiple people working in your department, somebody else may have already received the PO. Good documentation will avoid a lot of that, but sometimes it happens. Okay, or sometimes finance or purchasing will go in and make a change to the PO, and that will close it out. So when you try to receive it again, it'll come up and you'll have this error. So if you need to go and look up the status of a PO, you're going to go to the PO inquiry, click on that, and then where it says PO number, you're going to enter the number of the PO, and then just hit the tab button, and that's going to bring that PO up and show you the current status. And as you can see, the highlighted section shows the last date it was received, and then the lower highlighted section, it shows you that the PO has been fully received. So we know this PO is already completely done and when it was done. So that's pretty much the end of the slideshow. Okay, so this is your SL server. Okay. So over here you can see Microsoft Dynamic SL over here on the right, on the left. So just double click that to bring up that program. Okay. Oops. Got a little bit of a lag here. Okay. So I've got two POs in front of me that I'm going to enter to show you how to do this stuff. Okay, so both of these are going to be partial POs. We're not going to receive the whole thing. All right. So we'll go down to where it says orders, bring up that menu, and then up at the top where it says input, we're looking for receipt, invoice entry. So we click on that. That's going to bring up our little window here. So this top section where it says batch number and all of that stuff, we're not going to do anything up there right now. We're going to go down to this second section. We're going to go where it says PO. I'm going to enter in the PO number, which is 095052. And then you just hit the tab key, and it'll bring up that PO. Okay. So right now you see the total quantity is 5, and the total cost is $4.9810. So on this item line number 2, we didn't get anything on line number 2. So I'm just going to click on line number 2. I'm going to go up here to where the X is, and I'm going to delete that line out of this PO. Not out of the PO, but out of the receipt. Okay, so that's gone. Now on line number 1, we didn't get 3. What we got was 2. So I'm going to change the quantity on this to 2. Okay. And you're going to get the warning. You're changing the amount. Yeah, okay, I know I'm changing that. Okay. So now you see that the total quantity now says 3, and the total cost is now $324.10. Okay. So now I'm going to enter this PO. I'm going to document this PO. So I go to this, and I get the document here. I'm just going to hit OK. Document is out of balance. Okay, so what did I do wrong? Anybody figure out what I did wrong?
Control.
Exactly. I did not put in the control number, which is going to be 3. And I did not put in the control cost, which is going to be $324.10.
It doesn't automatically put those in.
Does not automatically put it in for you. You would think it would, but it does not. So you have to do that yourself. So now it'll work. So now we go up here and I document, hit OK, and it's happy now. It's got its numbers. So now we have our PO number or our batch number up here. So what I do is I write that down in my book. And the batch number.
So the batch number doesn't come. The batch number and the PO number are going to be different.
Batch number and PO numbers are going to be different. They look similar, but they are different. Okay? And you won't get your batch number until after you enter your first PO.
Until you receive something.
Yeah, once you enter your first PO, you'll get the batch number. And then now I'm going to do another PO on that same batch. Okay? So I'm going to enter another PO, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Let's go over here. So 094624. Okay, so this PO is actually a monthly service thing. So these guys come every week and pick up our towels and aprons for cleaning JP facilities. Okay. So what we're doing now is we are receiving for June 8th, which should be line 3. So we're on line 3. And I just want to take a look and see if that's in there. So June. Okay, it doesn't give us the date. So that just gives us a general description. So we're going to go all the way to the right here. And look at what the line item description says. Okay, so that says June 18th on line 3. And that's the one we're looking for. So we know we got the right one. We can go back over here. And line 4 is next week, so we're going to take that one out. So we're going to highlight that one, and we're going to go up here, and we're going to hit the X and delete that out of there. So now we're just doing the line item for this week. And we're going to go to there and change that to a 1. And change the total cost to 104.00. And you have to put in the decimals too, because you would think Microsoft would be smart enough to know to put in a decimal, but it's not. So you have to put in the decimals also. So now we're going to document this one. So we're going to document the PO. And remember, we're doing document, not batch. Okay. So it only takes a half a second for it to document the PO. But now we're done. So now we want to close the batch. So we go up to the batch, and we're going to go to the handling section. We're going to click on Release Now. Go to the quantity control. Oh, hold on. My clerk wants to get my batch number before I close it. Good thing somebody's here to keep me organized. But the batch number is 094664. This is my clerk, everybody. He keeps me straight and I forget stuff. He came running out here because he heard me closing the patch. Okay, so I got my numbers entered in for to close out my batch. And I got it set to release now. Who's got the music playing? Okay. So now We're pretty much done. You got the batch number, you got the PO numbers, okay. So we're good to go. So we go back up here to the flag, and now we want to select where it says batch. And hit OK. And this is going to take a minute or two, or maybe less because there's only 2 POs on this one. And when you do this, it'll print up 2 useless pieces of paper for you. Those are basically junk. You can take them and throw them away because nobody is ever going to ask for them, and nobody knows what's on them. Okay. So we're pretty much done. So let me see that one of those POs. I'm going to show them. We'll do a lookup. So we're going to go back and look up one of these POs I just entered so you can see what the status is. So we go to PO receipts entry, or PO receipts inquiry. Click on that. And that brings up this here. So right here, we're going to put in the PO number, 094624, and then hit the tab key again. So this brings up the PO that I just entered. So this is showing that lines 1, 2, and 3 have been received. And this receipt status says partially received. Says date last received is today, which makes sense. And it has a PO date, so that's how you look something up. Any questions? That's pretty much all you need to know for SL. Anybody got any questions or anything?
And I know I have some questions, but it's really kind of hard to ask the questions without trying to do it.
Okay,
like,
yep.
Yeah, I'm going to have to try to get into my system, into my SL, and try to do one, and then that's probably where my questions are going to come more, because I know I have some.
Yep, yep. Okay, if you really need to, you can give me a call while you're in the system. Okay, and I may be able to talk you through some of it.
Okay.
Or if you want to, you can just write out your questions in an email and send me an email.
Okay.
Either way that works for you, or both ways. Okay. I did this for the property officer down in at the Exeter Job Corps. He had a problem with one of his PO or one of his batches that he was doing. So he gave me a call, and I was actually able to go in and bring up the batch that he was doing. Okay. And look at it and find the problem. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm thinking I could probably do the same thing. I could probably, if you guys keep track of your batch numbers like I told you, and you give me a batch number, I can probably bring it up and look at it and probably find the problem that you're having. In his case, what he had done is he had entered a PO twice in the same batch.
Okay.
So once I figured that out, we deleted the one batch or the one PO that he entered twice and redid it.